I get it. When you're hunting for new speakers, the first thing you notice is how gorgeous they look in the photos. The sleek black cabinets, the subtle curves, the promise of premium audio all make it feel like you're about to upgrade your living room to a mini theater. Then you click Add to Cart, the package shows up a few days later, and after you finally get them set up, the room feels underwhelming. You start to wonder if you just paid a premium price for a pretty box rather than real sound improvement. That's exactly why I'm doing this deep dive on the Polk Audio Reserve R500 compact floor standing speakers. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the kind of space these speakers are aiming for. The R500 is marketed as a compact floor stander, which means the cabinet is smaller than the usual 8-foot tall tower. That's a blessing for apartments or modest-sized living rooms where you still want that full-range presence without sacrificing too much floor space. The design uses what Polk calls a broad dispersion driver layout, so the high frequencies aren't just beamed directly in front of the speaker, they spread wider, which helps you catch detail even if you're sitting off-axis on a couch. In my testing, I placed the pair on a medium-sized rug, one on each side of the TV, and the sweet spot stretched well beyond the center point. It felt less like I needed to sit exactly in the sweet spot and more like the room itself became part of the soundstage. Now, the mid-range is where a lot of speakers either shine or stumble, especially when you're listening to vocal-heavy music or dialogue-dense movies. The R500 uses a specialized cone geometry that aims to increase stiffness without adding extra weight. In practice, that translated to a smoother, more natural vocal presence. I tried a couple of classic rock tracks with gritty vocals and modern pop songs heavy on layered harmonies. The mids were clear enough that I could pick out each lyric without the hollow feeling some budget speakers have. For movies, the dialogue stayed intelligible even during fast-paced action scenes, which is a win if you binge streaming series late at night and don't want to keep raising the volume. Bass is a different story. The R500's patented port system is supposed to cancel out the typical resonance that makes cheap floor standers sound boomy or muddy. When I cranked the volume on a bass-heavy electronic track, the low end held steady without rattling the cabinets, but it also didn't have the throat-shaking impact you get from larger, wall-mounted woofers. If you're primarily listening to genres that rely heavily on deep bass, think EDM, hip-hop, or cinematic explosions, you'll notice that the R500 delivers a clean, distortion-free thump, but it won't replace a dedicated subwoofer. That's something to keep in mind if you're looking to turn a small room into a home theater powerhouse with just 2 speakers. Installation is one of those hidden trade-offs that often gets glossed over in marketing copy. The R500 ships with both built-in spikes and rubber boots, so you can choose a firmer stance on a wooden floor or a softer grip on carpet. I tried both setups. The spikes gave a tighter bass response because the cabinet had less opportunity to vibrate against the floor, but they also required you to be careful not to puncture laminate or hardwood. The rubber boots were essentially plug-and-play, and they absorbed a bit of the low-frequency energy, which softened the overall impact. The flexibility here is great, but the decision does affect how the speakers translate, especially if you move them frequently. Who should consider the R500? If you're a homeowner or renter with a mid-size room, think 250 to 350 square feet, and you want a set of speakers that look as good as they sound, these are a solid match. They're especially appealing to folks who appreciate a balanced presentation, clear mids, detailed highs, and a respectable low end without diving into the realm of high-end audiophile rigs that demand room treatment and pricey amplifiers. Because the R500 is a passive speaker, you'll need an external amp or AV receiver. If you already have a decent amp lying around, you're set. If not, factor in that extra cost. Conversely, if you're a bass enthusiast who wants those earth-shaking low frequencies, or if you're planning a dedicated home theater setup with surround and a sub, you might want to look at a larger Polk Reserve model or add a separate subwoofer. Also, if your room is extremely small like a studio apartment under 150 SQFT, the floor standing size, even in its compact form, could dominate the space and make the speakers feel out of proportion. In that case, a bookshelf speaker on stands might mesh better with the room's dimensions. A practical strength you'll notice right away is the high-frequency clarity. Whether it's the sparkle of a violin in a classical piece or the sizzle of cymbals in a live concert recording, the R500 reproduces those details without sounding harsh. The mids sit just as nicely, providing a natural vocal tone that doesn't